It's the summer of 2021, and my wife are hiking through southeastern Tennessee. And we're grateful to have a lot of shade. We're grateful that we have these trees that we're walking underneath. We're on a well traveled trail walking upstream. There's a river right next to us. And it's pretty well traveled, so the dirt has been packed down, and a lot of the roots from the trees have been exposed. And it's easy to trip over them. I know this because I've already tripped once. So, as much as I would love to enjoy the scenery and look around and see the beautiful scenery, I got my head to the ground because I don't want to trip again. So, as I'm walking, I see there's a branch or a root coming up, and I see it. Good. And at my current cadence, my current steps, my current stride, I'm just going to step on this root and move on. I'm not going to trip over it. Right as my foot is about to step on this root, the root starts twisting around and slithering and coiling up. To understand what happens next, I need you to imagine a contortionist undulating through a swarm of angry bees while screaming, "Oh my God, it's moving!" So I'm not proud of this impromptu dance move in my R-rated language, but what I'm grateful for is that whatever happened, this root, which turned out to be a very large snake, did not unhinge its jaw and swallow me whole like they do on the Discovery Channel. I'm grateful for that. Now, I did not intend to start dancing like a one-legged clown here. I did not intend to do this weird contortion-y moves looking like Neo from the Matrix. My body did that for me. My body assumed the worst case scenario, that this must be something dangerous and we must avoid it. Now, we're hardwired to assume the worst case scenario. That's what I did with the snake. And that works in survival situations, but with our money, it doesn't tend to work for us. Find out more right after this. Hey, this is Derek Hagan. I'm a financial therapist and financial life planner here with another money health presentation. We're going to talk about our negativity bias. We're going to talk about financial gratitude. Okay. So bad things happen. Bad things happen all the time. This is just a fact. This is the human condition. So when bad things happen in the world of finance, this could be a fight with your spouse around money, around spending, about how you're going to pay for something. This could be something bad happened at work, even something as bad as I lost my job. But it doesn't always need to be in the world of finance. But when bad things happen to us, it's bad, right? It's a bad thing by definition, so it's going to be bad. But how it feels to us is it feels like that bottom dropped out. It feels like it's completely awful. And it feels like that because remember, our brain, especially the primitive part of the brain, is hardwired for survival. And so what we want to do, what it's trying to have us do, is to survive. So what happens is we end up in what I call the anxiety cycle, where we get stressed out about something bad happened, and we get stressed out about it. Then we get these automatic negative thoughts, and then we assume the worst, which stresses us out, which causes us automatic negative thoughts, which gets us to assume the worst, and around and around and around we go. Now, this stuff is so common, this assuming the worst and catastrophic thinking, it's so common that it has a name. It's called negativity bias. And to understand why we have this bias, it's helpful to understand kind of the idea that we can't be right all the time. What I mean by that is, if I think something's going to be good, and it is actually good, and good could mean not deadly. Because in the realm of our ancestors passing on our genes here, that's what it was. Good means not deadly. But if I think something's good and it actually is good, then I'm right. But it works in the other direction too. Because if I think something's bad and it actually is bad, then I can act appropriately. I'm actually correct. We don't care if we're right. That doesn't really matter to us. Now, what happens? What happens if I think something's bad, but it turns out to be good? well, that's embarrassing. If I thought this was a deadly snake, but it turned out it was just a stick, well, okay, that's embarrassing. But I survive until tomorrow to be embarrassed again. What if I think something's good, but it turns out to be bad? What if I think that's nothing but a root? That's just a stick. But it actually turns out to be a deadly snake. That's very close to what happened to me. I was in this dangerous zone here. And then I quickly recovered with my dance moves and shot up to this corner. But if we think it's good, if we think it's a stick, but it turns out to be a deadly snake, that's bad for us. So if we're going to be wrong, remember, we can't be right all the time. So if we're going to be wrong, we're going to err on the side of survival over the dangerous, which means that we're hardwired to think it is bad, even if it's good. Right? So of all these four quadrants, if we assume the worst, we're either right or we survive and we're embarrassed. If the opposite was true, and we always assume the best, we would either be right or dead. So that's not how we've inherited those genes. And what this does is it kind of shifts us into what I call a downward spiral, this negativity bias. So something bad happens, right? And then we assume the worst. This is that anxiety cycle that we talked about. Then we stress out, and then we assume the worst, then we stress out, and then we assume the worst, and we stress out, and around and around and around and around. We fall into this death spiral. The negativity bias is what focuses our attention on the bad stuff. We see all the bad, we ignore all the good. We get used to it. Psychologists call this adaptation. As soon as we get used to all the good, then we're on the hunt for all the bad stuff. So one way to gain to change this is to get perspective. So it can feel like the bottom's dropped out and we're on our way down and we're going to die and we're going to lose our house and we're going to get divorced and we're going to, whatever story we're making up about ourselves. But if we can pause and take a step back and get some perspective, we'll actually see, oh, this isn't really that bad. This is not a mountain. This is really just a molehill. So gaining some perspective, getting a bigger picture view, that's helpful. But what's even more helpful is gratitude. Gratitude is paying deliberate attention to all the good stuff that's already going on around you. Gratitude is the antidote to taking your life for granted. Gratitude is the antidote for negativity bias. Gratitude is the answer. So practice gratitude. Gratitude says, what are 3 good things that have been going on in your life? Or who's a person that you're grateful for? Or what are you grateful to be looking forward to? Or what's something a long time ago that totally altered the course of your life? And you can be grateful for that. Who was the mentor that you had back then? What's something bad that happened, but it actually turned out to be good for you? You can be grateful for that. What's something bad that happened, but you found a silver lining in there anyways? Right? Gratitude helps change your mind. It helps change what you focus on. Where you pay attention will determine the quality of your life. So gaining that perspective and practicing gratitude, that's how you can combat catastrophic thinking. That's how you can combat our negativity bias. So practice gratitude, practice putting space in between stimulus and response, and you'll be a lot happier for the trouble. You only have one life. Live intentionally.